time. You can all stand up. Now you get to stand for 2 hours while we sit. A few words again. Because we're on the radio, I'm going to be doing a fair bit of play-by-play like Roger Grossman. I'll talk in my deep Roger Grossman voice. And please hold your applause so that we can get through as many questions as we possibly can. Gentlemen, this is obviously a Tea Party event, and so lots and lots of questions on taxes and spending and those kinds of things. So I'll read the question and then I'll call on an individual to talk about it, okay? Here we go, number one. What is your philosophical position on earmarks? That is, they're wrong and I should not support them regardless because I add to the problem. Versus, my job is to bring state taxes sent to the federal government back to my state versus West Virginia, and this happens to be the current method. So what's your position on earmarks, and how will you practically apply your philosophy once you're our senator from Indiana? Mr. Bates, we'll begin with you.
Well, I think first of all, my number one responsibility as your United States Senator is to represent you. Secondly, I do believe earmarks are a tremendous issue. I think if you will read what the Heritage Foundation had to say about earmark spending, earmarks actually peaked in 2006 when voters went to the polls and threw out a bunch of Republicans. So people are telling us that the fiscal insanity has got to stop. So I'm opposed to earmarks. I will represent my state as best I know how. But we have to stop the out-of-control spending that's taking place on Capitol Hill. And I believe the way we do that is by trimming earmark spending. And I know that there's going to be some local communities, I've already had this question, that challenge me on this. But the bottom line is this: our government is spending way too much money. And we can start doing away with the fiscal madness by eliminating earmark spending.
Mr. Boehme.
You know, from the guy that's the outsider looking in, you know, I've been witnessing nothing but a bunch of pimps, prostitutes, and panhandlers. You know, they go to D.C. and they're literally, you know, I'm not sure if that's the car keys I feel in my pocket or someone else's hands in my pocket. And this is a process that we must have to stop. We must stop that extra spending in Washington, D.C. We must stop the spending. That's the problem we're in today. We must stop the spending. I look to bring that back to our state, to have any kind of spending back here in our state. I told folks all over Indiana that if you're looking to send me to D.C. to bring money back to our state, don't count on me. I'm not bringing $1, because that means that I have to stick my hands in someone else's pocket in another state and bring it back to our state. I'm going there to fight, to stand firmly, to keep others' hands out of our pockets, and allow losers to keep our money.
Mr. Stutzman.
I would oppose earmarks. I believe that right now, when our country is facing a $12 trillion debt, let me just give you a quick understanding of the difference of a trillion and a million. A million is 12 days worth of seconds. A trillion is 30,000 years worth of seconds. We are $12 trillion in debt. How could we afford to continue maxing out the credit card on earmarks in frivolous projects right now when we're sinking our country further and further into red? How are our kids and grandkids going to ever pay that debt back? For one thing, Indiana is already a donor state to the federal government. We only get back about 92 cents on the dollar that we send to Washington now. We'd be better off saving our money, keeping it here, rather than sending it to Washington and then them giving it to somebody else like California or New York.
Thank you. As a technical comment, the process of earmarks does not raise spending 1 penny. The earmark process is a process whereby members of Congress get to utilize their Article 1, Section 9 power of the United States Constitution, where the Constitution says that no money shall be drawn from the Treasury except as a consequence of appropriation made by law. It is an Article 1 power. It is a power exclusive to the legislature. And if we were to ban earmarks tomorrow, it would not stop 1 penny of spending. It would simply say that your member of Congress could not decide how to spend that money. Finally, I will say this, that I believe that it's ultimately up to Congress to take responsibility for its spending. And as a result of that, I have asked for programs in the past that would, for example, put new facilities at Crane Naval Surface Warfare Center, given that Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution gives the plurality of powers for the national defense. Thank you.
Mr. Coates.
Well, John, I have to take a little bit of disagreement with you because while it's true, it doesn't stop 1 penny of extra spending. If we eliminated the amount of spending on earmarks and didn't spend it on something else but returned it to the taxpayer, it would make a difference. It would reduce our deficit, and we could apply it to reducing the debt. So there is a way to stop that. Now, this latest omnibus bill that was just passed by the Congress had some earmarks in it to the tune, I think, of in the several tens of billions of dollars. So yes, if you take that tens of billion and then spend it somewhere else, you don't save money. But if you take that tens of billions that goes for instance, $1.76 million for a honeybee lab, $1.7 million for swine odor control, something those of us in Indiana are familiar with, $5.8 million for the Ted Kennedy Institute. If you take that money and give it back to the people, earmarks make a huge difference by not supporting it.